on the taxes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. It's 5:30. And I'll call the meeting to order. Are there any agenda adjustments to be considered?
Nope, not tonight.
Okay, moving on, food village tax rate. Sarah Haskins will join us.
At your place on Friday when they sent the packet out, we sent one that had a slight mistake. So at your place is the updated one, the difference. Yep, so the difference is that, what was not included was the village portion of your pay increase that was done on the floor, so that got missed. It doesn't change the tax rate at all, because the village tax is paid for such a small portion of that. But Sarah can talk to have the accurate one at your place, that's the point.
Okay.
You also emailed the correction.
I also, you know, when we give you a different document, I like to kill a tree and that, and only in that case.
All right.
So, the grand list from, 2022 to 2023, and for the village increased by 60%, which we assumed it would increase because of the reappraisal. And the budget that was voted on by voters increased by only 6%. So we have 60% grand list, 6% budget increase. And the proposed tax rate is 0.0048, which is actually a decrease of 32%. And it's a decrease of 23 cents is what I'm proposing.
Good. So this latest.
Well, I was gonna say, when you propose, if it's proposal or it's, I mean, but there's. It's calculation, right?
It's a calculation.
Not any variable,
Penny checked it after.
any variables in there, we change your.
No, it's already,
Discuss,
everything that's been
right.
part of Article 3, 4, and 5 that were voted on by the,
Yeah.
so, yeah, but they have to approve the
Yeah,
tax
you-
rate
yeah,
No,
itself.
I understand, I
Yeah.
just wanted to make
So,
sure.
yeah, there's nothing you can change.
Not missing anything. Okay. Thank you.
So is this part of the new budget that's being voted on? Or?
This isn't common town.
This is
No,
village
this is
budget,
just
already
village.
voted
All
on.
right, I wanna- okay.
Yeah.
Clear.
So the
So
village.
feel free to
resident-
post that on Front Porch Forum that it went down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the village residents will be happy. Their tax bills are going down
Yeah.
due to the reappraisal
Okay,
For the village
for
portion.
the village portion.
Yeah.
what does that mean for the rest of the town?
Nothing really.
This
It won't affect the town tax bills at all. So the village is a line item on the town tax bill, but all the money goes to the village.
Mhm.
And so, I don't know, so.
And it's only for the village residents, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a $400,000 house, last year paid $28.40. This year will pay $19.20, so they'll save $10.
Have it on, by the way.
So I make a motion that we approve the tax rate.
Motion's been made, second? Second. Second is made, any discussion? We're not all in favor of approving the tax rate? Say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. The rate's been approved.
Any other questions for me while I'm here?
Thank you.
Just
Thank you.
Thank you for, I know it was all little things, but during the flood and everything, to anybody that was helping us, it was so appreciated, so thank you.
I don't know if you have, what is the town's grand list equal to?
Oh, 11 million.
11 billion.
Billion.
So the village is about a fifth or fourth.
I guess I haven't, but yeah, good question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good meeting.
Right.
All right, let's go to approving the minutes of the July 19th meeting. Make motion to approve the minutes as written. I'll second it. Motion's been made, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor for approving the regular meeting minutes on July 19th, say aye. All right, I have it. We're gonna have check register approval.
I got two questions about the checklist. These checks to Memorial Housing Partnership,
That's.
what was for?
Those are the incentive items that you voted on, not last year, but the year before for the heat
Yeah.
pumps and the heat pump hot water.
Same question, yeah.
Yeah. Finally got done. They finally got installed, we're finally kind of good money.
No, I think I asked this question before, they only have one electric meter.
They have their own sub meters, which they did install. I
So they only have one.
believe that's true, but I'm not.
Honestly, don't know. I can check.
I know there was some concern about whether they actually ever installed the sub meters, and so they sent me a picture.
No, I'm just wondering
Doesn't matter.
if this, program, the public service. Department's coming up with reduce low income people's
Oh, yeah.
electric bills. We're not reducing it for an apartment complex, but if they were individuals, we would have to.
You can come over here if you want. Up to you. But yeah, no, I hear you. I have to see how the rules are written by the state.
David, do you know, the apartment building on Hudson Street, is that 1 meter of hours? We're gonna be billing,
So,
The new high rise there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a CTV or one unit,
and then there's sub metering up behind it,
yes.
you know, on their own. We don't have anything to do with that, I don't believe.
that's a very good point, Bob, that we will need to keep track of.
Well,
Make
if
sure
they're not
that,
customers, that. I would think if they're not our customers, they can't qualify as low income.
Very interesting, okay.
any other questions on the check register?
Yeah, the motion to approve. Motion to approve the check register.
Second.
Motion been made, seconded, any discussion? All in favor of approving the check register, say aye. Aye. Okay. The removal of planning commission member.
I make a motion to remove, Mr. McGee from the planning commission.
Motion's been made, there's a second. Second. Second been made,
Who did the second? I'm sorry.
thank you, Tom.
Sorry.
Yeah, discussion.
The question I asked Scott is, we have joint rules for appointing and discussion on that, and I just didn't know if it's within your jurisdiction to be able to remove somebody.
I was at the planning board meeting when they voted him off the planning board. And the select board has already voted him off.
I know that.
I mean, I understand that, I just wasn't sure.
But he's appointed, he's not elected, so.
Correct, he's appointed by you guys under rules of appointment, though.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I just
you know,
wasn't sure if there was very specific rules for removing somebody.
Well, we're following the select board's rules.
They're the same rules, so I just don't know if you have the jurisdiction to do it.
But the planning commission has set the rule though, right? They're the ones that set the 50% of attendance or something to that effect.
I don't know.
So we're just going off of their recommendation.
They were quoting the state law for removing people from an appointed position at the planning board meeting. So I assume that same law applies to us, and it had to do with missing a certain percentage of the meetings. And apparently this guy hasn't been to a meeting.
So it says there, we can only consider during reappointment, so we'd have to wait until his term would end and then decide whether or not we're gonna reappoint him, but we can't remove him. That's how I just looked at that right there.
I only bring it up because I just recall, and all I know is when I saw Todd's note on the planning council meeting, all he wrote was, he had this up and then he wrote next to it. Has only made 40% of the meetings or something. I just.
Yeah.
Offer that up to you guys that you may or may not be within your jurisdiction to do it.
Well, I think the planning board wanted them gone. And the select board wants them gone, I think we should vote to remove.
He doesn't appeal, it will stand.
Exactly, that's the only other.
Well, I mean, that's the way Robert's rules, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The decision
Deal with it
stands
then.
unless it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So, but if he, I think to Penny's point, if he was to challenge it, we might not win.
All right, motion, is there a motion?
Yeah, we already have a motion and a second, I think.
And we'll do our discussion, all right, okay. All in favor of removing the Tim McGee from the planning commission, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to other business.
All right. So, I think the next item is the cash flow discussion. This is really, you know, as you figured out by now, my, where I try to do things is really complicated things that where there isn't always a right answer. I try to bring you as a discussion point so you have time to think about it before I ask you to make a decision. So previously, we've been talking about cash flow a lot. Previously, we brought the idea of creating a line of credit, and then we brought getting rid of the money market. And as we continue to look at now with all the FEMA costs that are gonna roll with us, because there's probably another $1 million worth of costs that are gonna roll with us. You know, that we'll have to, depending on what you believe, I think a minimum of a year, we're gonna have to float those dollars, maybe longer. We're probably a few months away, at least still from getting Winter Storm Elliott dollars, for example, and this is way more complicated than Winter Storm Elliott. At least that's our belief currently. So we gotta float more money than we originally anticipated. So our current thinking, we hadn't asked you to vote on it yet, but we previously said we probably have to come back to you to have us use the Green River Fund to float the rebuild of the turbine, you know, the vertical turbine, while it's being torn down, put it back together, and then we go out and get long-term debt for that and restore the fund, right? So we got looking at, now we've got to deal with FEMA, the costs. The Green River Fund actually works much better for that, because it's an eligible cost under that, if you will, right? So we could use anything that's electrically related, so all the damages we had to the hydro plants, any damages that we have on the electric system, we could basically characterize, document, and float out of the Green River Fund. Now, that's then not available to float the construction costs while we're rebuilding the generator. There's not enough money to do both in it. But, you know, construction loans are a pretty normal thing. When you're building a big project, you go pull a construction loan, you know, it gets aggregated as you go, and when everything is done and you know the actual costs, the construction loan gets converted into long-term debt. So our current thinking, and so this is really just a temperature for you, is that, you know, at the next meeting, depending on what you tell us, and if you have other ideas, we're happy to hear them and explore them, is that we likely come to you and say, we'd like authorization to keep track of all the costs, FEMA costs that are related to electrical, and use the Green River Fund to float that till it comes back in, and then exploring and obtaining a construction loan to help us front the costs for the rebuild of the vertical turbine. And then we also put in the memo, you know, at least a starting point, so we'd also love input from you on, so we've been telling you we're gonna track for you, you know, what are we using the line of credit for, how much are we using of it, for what purpose, how much accounts payable is still outstanding, you know, how much FEMA money are we floating that is really being carried by that money market that doesn't exist anymore, that we rolled in. We would do the same for these two. How much electrical costs for FEMA have we tagged out of Green River Fund? And then finally, how much is the scale of the construction loan and how much of it have we used to date? It's all documented. If there's more information that's helpful to you to have transparency in light of day, that's just where we started, right? So those are the two things. Like, directionally, is this okay on the Green River Fund and the construction loan? And then what do you think about what we're talking about for reporting? The last thing I would say, because I'm imagining you're interested, is at least on the line of credit. So it's around 800,000. This is what we got for line of credit, and we've used about a third of it. But we have accounts payable that, you know, if we were to pay all our bills, there'd be no line of credit available. We have bigger bills just from VEPSA, then those amounts still available. So even if we use the whole line of credit, we'll still be managing, you know, accounts payable, you know, to make sure that we stay in front of it. We believe we'll be able to stay in front of it during this transition. Again, that was due to the rate increase not coming in right. But so really, you know, we've only drawn a third of it, but we don't really believe there's any of that available for other uses because of the amount of other accounts payable we have. And Penny can add color to that for you if you'd like to talk more about that as well. So So I'm fine, I just.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Please, everyone too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't really know what our choices are, and, yeah, as long as we're tracking everything, that's all this we can do.
And we still aren't touching the wastewater funds, because frankly, the only thing we could borrow off of there is the sewer allocation and kind of a dedicated fund that could we get away with putting together a loan from the wastewater fund to, let's say, the electric fund and charge ourselves interest so that the sewer allocation money is earning. There's probably a way to do that legally, but it gets kind of like self-dealing-ish. It looks self-dealing-ish to the public.
Yeah, if we have
It was a
a
head-
flood, and we gotta do something with the sewage treatment plant, we're not gonna have it come up.
Right, so it's like, I know I had mentioned that in the past, we kind of backed off. It didn't feel and look right, even though I think there's a way to legally do it. It didn't rise to the top for us. I'm just trying to be transparent with you about the other options. So,
And I think to the point though, about another flood, I mean, it would be a short-term loan while we're waiting on
Right.
FEMA. So if we need to tap into it, we can certainly
it could-
create some sort of document that.
Yep.
While we're waiting for
But
FEMA
if
reimbursement.
if we get in some kind of territorial dispute with the Public Service Commission.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that, we don't. have to.
We don't have to, correct. I do know that other utilities have done it,
It
because I
has been
chatted with them and they have, like, did
Mhm.
internal loan.
It can be
documents.
done, I just think it's more complicated and, I was always taught when I first entered the public sector, it was like, it was like, how would you like this to be the headline in the paper? Not only could you defend it, but how would it look? Are you fighting uphill? Even if you're right, are you
You
fighting
have
uphill?
all
or-
these developers that are paying these hookup fees, saying, wait a minute.
Yeah, so that's why we landed so far where we landed, so. None of this, by the way, gives me pause that we're like financially unsound. I mean, Penny and I've spent a lot of time talking about these accounts. Keep in mind, we're only getting 75%-ish coming back in on what goes out on the FEMA stuff, but, the Green River Fund will still be sound. At some point, we haven't resolved yet what we want to bring to you about the timing of the next rate increase, but once we figure that out and cycle through that, presuming we can finally get the state to start thinking clearly, that there's a way to reconcile that, so the construction loan will reconcile itself, so these will all reconcile, but it's all just timing stuff right now.
And I just wanna point out, that Scott put in the memo, 178,000 is the amount we have to give back to customers.
Right, from the rate
From the rate,
increase.
basically what we over collected.
So that will also, most of that will be in a bill credit, which will mean one billing cycle is gonna be much smaller, which is gonna further hit accounts payable. Right, less coming in, bills are still coming in, so
So when can you file for next rate increase?
we can file whatever we want. What Penny and I are trying to think through is, do we do it now with just the known and measurables? That, we'd already put together and any others that have come up? Or are we better off getting 2023 to be our test year so that we can have something more robust and we just haven't landed yet. We've been talking about, those are the two obvious answers. We've also thought about, this idea of 2% a year. Could we use a line of credit? We're still trying to understand the rules of how much autonomy do you actually have to do that? If there's enough autonomy there, could we actually use the line of credit to just not talk to the state and do, it would take a couple of years to get to a point where we're solving again. But we could use the line of credit to just get there without talking to the state. So that's the third option. We haven't done the math on that yet. I say that as if it's true, but we want to actually do that math and see, is that a viable option? Because at least we get more control. We don't have 100% autonomy, but VEPS has said you do have to file a piece of paper with the DPS, but to date, they have not objected when people have done it. They seem to not like us very much, so maybe we'd be the lucky ones who they'd object to, so who knows, but. So we're looking at those options right now, Bob, but we could file tomorrow. Nothing stops us from filing. A lot of people, usually when these rate increases come, because of the way the state plays the game, utilities have 2 or 3 rate cases sometimes in front of the PUC all at once. Stowe had 2 in front of them at once recently, for example.
And to say that we could file tomorrow is more like probably we could file in 3 or 4 months, only because
The process.
DEPSA has a number of utilities ahead of us already,
Well, we-
first round.
We can decide to file.
We could decide to
That's
file,
what-
yeah.
You're correct. It would take some time, so.
And it really is all about the test year, because
Yeah, and if you transfer that money to the Green River funds, not gonna look like we have a whole lot of money here.
Right, that's right. So, and, you know, they'll see that, not because of the reasons they wanted us to borrow, but, you know, they basically wanted us to have the short-term borrow, we didn't have any choice, so we did. They wanted to see us doing more long-term borrowing, we'd already planned to rebuild the vertical turbine at Katie's, so we're gonna be doing long-term borrowing, it had nothing to do with them. But they may look at those two and say, oh, they heard us, we'll be more kind this time. I don't know, but it wouldn't because of anything they pushed it on us, but. So that's where we are on that.
The, whether or not FEMA considers it one event, one deductible, that conversation, is that just something down the road we'll find out at some point? Or
I left that as if it's not an answered question, I mean, we think we know the answer, but I'll let Penny speak to that, I don't know that we're 100% certain we know the answer.
so. I mean, I think we do know the answer that it is one event as far as insurance goes, as far as the deductible.
Good.
It's 500,000, although they also threw out some information that I don't know is like the small amount of dollars that we lost at the wastewater treatment plant might have a different deductible, but this is why FEMA is gonna be a lot harder, because we do have the insurance up to the 500 with a $500 deductible. However, we also have things that insurance will not cover, such as the dirt that we brought in to fix the road over by Plant 2. And the dirt that we brought in at near well 2, that won't be covered by insurance. So then the question is, okay, does that mean that FEMA will pay the $500 deductible and anything insurance won't cover? We don't know. And we have a meeting next week with FEMA. And then the other thing is we don't know, where I'm hoping that we can chunk the FEMA projects into multiple projects, and that might help expedite
So,
reimbursement. You know, Scott mentioned the long time that it's taken for Elliott, most of that's on me, and just like really getting my feet wet in it and hands wrapped around exactly what needs to be done. So the fact that I've been through it now, I got everything submitted Friday. You know, we're going back and forth with questions, and hopefully my knowledge will help a little bit. So that if they do break it into projects, we could get chunks back, more quickly.
okay, all right, well, we'll keep you up to date on those, and next time we'll expect to have a couple decision things on the agenda, we'll probably take all this, and but thank you, this is, okay, really appreciate it, this will, I think this should be the end, at least for now, unless we have a third, but, you know, FEMA, and, you know, this should be the action we need to take, at least until we decide to final rate increase, that would be the next piece of this, whichever way we go on that. So, thank you. Will you next 5 minutes, please, I believe, because you can go first if you want. You first, you go first, but only management report.
Yep.
She has to leave soon, so if you want to just go. First.
Yeah, I just want to touch on a few things. One is, you may recall, I think it was in early 20. When did you start? 22?
Yeah, last
I
year.
think it was early 22, you guys signed off on a loan. It's actually going to be a grant, but for some GPS, to GPS the water infrastructure. We've been working on that, maybe it's been 21, I don't even know, but that grant paperwork got submitted and we should be getting back about 40 grand initially, soon. And then the other 5,000 once it's been completely, I don't know if there's others that has to happen, but at some point, one of the governing board is gonna have to attend a training, along with Kevin and or myself, to get that loan waived or grant. I did wanna follow back up, I think in early June, I think wasn't at the meeting where Scott talked about how we had gone through the reappraisal or the grievance process and the hydro. That was at, I think, 2 million or 1.2 million. Scott had mentioned at that meeting that it was a revenue expense base, and they did drop that down to 293,000. And then lastly, I just talked about the rate increase being, dropped from 11.25% to 5%. I've been working with our billing system, pulling out data on what we did actually bill, calculating what the refunds were. And now I'm just trying to wait for Harris to provide a template that we can put the data into to then upload it back to the accounts. I am hoping to be able to get the DPS or PUC to waive some of the final accounts that have already been finalized, where the refund is maybe less than $2, so that we don't have to send them checks. I did the math, and depending on what kind of hour we use on our labor as an overhead, with the benefits and everything, it's anywhere from a little over $2 to $2.50 to actually prepare a check. So it doesn't make sense to be preparing a check for $2 that will eventually probably come back if we don't have the right address, which we might not, since some of these people might have finalized it back in March. So that is something we still have to work through with the lawyers to finalize a plan with and submit it to the PUC.
Any question for Penny?
And this template can be used again, if we have another
Yes.
rate increase. That's not the same.
Basically, yeah, they're configuring a process that's already in our North Star billing system that's just not configured for us.
One thing's not in Penny's report, but just so you know that in the last meeting, I told you that we're hitting pretty hard reprioritizing what was in our original work plan, what can wait a bit, and what can't. And one item that might push to 2024 is the acquiring a new finance system. And it really has somewhat less to do with the flood than the fact that, VEPSA may finally be finding religion on this. Penny's been preaching to them for a long time that they should essentially create a platform for everybody to use, so that it lower everybody's costs and everybody in that space would have the same skill set, because across the communities, because we're all using the same system. And VEPSA seems to have jumped on that finally at the retreat we had this summer, the planning retreat for technology. They seem to have jumped on that. So we told them if they would move fast, like it can't be 2025, it needs to be 2024, so we could get it in place before AMI. That if they could commit to go fast, that we would defer going on our own. So that may mean in our original work plan, we had acquire a finance system this year. That may mean that kicks down the road to early next year or mid next year. Don't know yet, but we'll keep you up to date on that. Is there anything you can say on that?
No, other than, like I said, I've been harping on it, and I know that I've got some buy-in from some of the other bigger munis. Their controllers are definitely interested. Same situation, have some really antiquated financial systems, so, again, you're all in the same software, it just makes life so much easier. If I don't know how to do something, I call somebody up and they're like, oh yeah, you just click this, and it just.
Is there any overlap with the online payment system that you're rolling out, or totally two separate, don't connect?
That's a good question, I don't know.
One have functionality.
Carl, I do-
The other.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like you're ready to go in September next month. so I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
saying-
we're working through it. I'll tell you, of those big systems that I talk to a lot, they all have the invoice cloud system
Yeah,
that we're going toward. So I would hope that if everybody already has it, the financial system that we move to that's gonna be probably like a requirement that it is able to interface with invoice cloud.
and hopefully it tells you when your credit card has expired. The current one doesn't. I was almost 2 months late on my payment because I had it automatically come out of my credit card.
By us,
Yeah.
we send letters, so if it expired, we would have sent
Well, I
you a
got a
letter.
letter I got a letter, but it was like I already missed the payment.
Oh, yeah,
It's not good, I'm a trustee. I should pay my bill, so.
Yes.
yeah, that's another process.
Sign this lien there.
But-
That's a line.
I know, remove.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good
I
to know,
call, I gotta
that's,
take care of it. But you can't even change it yourself on the portal.
but you will be able to in the future.
That's what I kind of, when I brought it up, I assume you did.
Yes, yeah, that's another, it's gonna be a huge, I mean, it's gonna be a huge time savings for the ladies up front, because they spend a lot of time setting up those credit cards and then making changes and, yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking forward to it.
You good? I know you're gonna go, so.
I got a couple of minutes, but so.
Any questions on anything I've got? Summarized, Bob?
Yeah, the proposal by, Tailwater Engineering. To extend a water line out to,
Yeah.
I'm not in favor of extending the village infrastructure outside of the village.
All right.
I mean, the times we have done it. I mean, last year, they brought it out to Hannaford's in that area 20 years ago. They still haven't figured out who owned it. Who owns it? They were going back and forth about somebody wanting to, they said, no, you gotta pay this guy for this. We don't need to get into that again, right? And potable water is too valuable a resource to start pumping tens of thousands of gallons out there for a gravel pit or whatever they do.
Eventually, it's gonna be an industrial park. That's what they want the water for. It's basically fire protection for an industrial park. Eventually, but that's fine. Yeah,
I'm not in favor of extending it beyond the village.
we can certainly let them assign to that.
But what's the financial picture for doing that? I mean.
Basically, we
payback.
told them 100% of the cost to extend, even if it requires an additional reservoir to get the head would be 100% on them.
Yeah.
All permitting, all construction, they pay our engineer to watch them do it. We told them if you want to even talk about it, those are the table stakes to even have a conversation, is what we told them, and then they pay for the water.
But then who maintains it after they build it?
Then it's village infrastructure, and we would maintain it with rates like we do
So
everything.
there's no upside to the people in the village.
Well, other than there's potential for increased income, because you got, all along the way, you got people that could attach to it.
Wasn't there anyway? Who the hell, who were they also gonna get the water?
Well, they might have wells or who knows.
That's why
what,
they're
anything.
probably calling the paper.
I think that's something we could look down the road and if we look at.
And then the zoning stuff changed because they've got water and it's a can of worms we don't need to open.
I know one of the things they're looking at is really big lots, if you go across country from Jersey Heights across, that's where their preferred route was. There's only, by the time you get out to the end, there's only like 3 properties and they're all big and they're all owned by developers. So to even get out there, they were thinking you're gonna be on 3 or 4 really big housing developments along the way.
And the reason they can't build there now is because it's outside the village limits. The state considers it sprawl.
Yep.
And there's no potable water.
Yep. Nope, I agree.
Municipal water.
Yep, this is, Travis, this is what you probably have seen in News and Citizen, all the furor about, MSI's engineer,
Oh,
telling all, everyone has a well to, spend money and check their well. Because they're also looking at putting in, I think, 100,000 gallon a day wells. To see, and so they need to understand if they're gonna negatively impact all their neighbors' wells. And the answer is they likely will, I can't fathom they wouldn't. But they'll have to model it all, so that's what they're doing. So they're looking at both options is what they're looking at.
Another thing, I don't buy the fire protection. The airport has adequate fire protection.
Yeah, for an industrial, they've gotta have certain, it all has to be sprinkled by today's codes for an industrial park, so they have to have a ton of water. They don't let you just put standpipes in anymore under new codes, so for what it's worth. So I think they're probably right about what they need for water. I know they even called Kevin to find out, what the fire flows required are, and Kevin got that from the fire department, I think.
or still,
So they're looking at all the codes and trying to figure out what they're gonna need.
Again, there's nothing in it for the people in the village.
I hear you loud and clear. So, okay. Anything else on Kevin's? I would say, at this point, the vertical is torn down. There's still trucking pieces and parts of it to New Hampshire, because it's all gonna get, measured to, thousandths of a micron or whatever they do. And it was, I will tell you what we were told, and John Tilton agreed, is it became really clear about halfway in that this machine was never built to be taken apart.
I got a question for you, Kevin. Those bearings are originally ligand vitae bearings are in the lower end of that. Are they cooled by river water or by regular water?
The river water,
So all that dirt's getting in there and grinding them up.
They're wood bearings.
liquid vites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, Ken said that some of the rebuilds, they're reinstalling if they can find it. And rock maple, I think, is another wood they use. It wears like iron, and even with that fine silt, it holds up better than
There's a scrap, how big are these?
the bearings.
The bearings.
The ones on the vertical unit, they're probably that big by,
Cylinders?
no, they're blocks, but they've got the radius of the shaft that they ride against. Milled into it.
No.
I've got the number of a scrap yard in India for the scrap ships. The old ships have liquid vitae stern tube there.
Oh, no doubt. Ken would start salivating if
Yeah.
there was stuff available, yeah.
It's amazing the stuff I've been able to source through there. Not that I do it anymore, but I still have the number.
If you've got that, yeah, that'd be great.
I actually sell wood online.
Oh, really?
And import it from South Africa. We have that product. You just need the dimensions.
No doubt,
Oh, cool. Well, that.
yeah.
Get the grows in the United States now is liquid vitae key.
Well, so technically it's not, there's actually 3 different species and they're often mistaken, and a lot of it comes from Argentina. And to get the true stuff, it's actually an endangered species. But the Argentinian stuff is a pretty good path.
No doubt.
Anyway, I have them. I have some at home.
I just happen to have something.
You got anything at all?
I could probably get them the exact dimensions, so you could know, we could know it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
The legal stuff or the illegal?
Very cool.
The stuff down in Florida, you can't buy because the Navy owns it.
Oh,
Because they haven't needed.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Wow,
But it is really, it's interesting wood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
indeed.
What were you using it for?
I sell it, but if people use it to make tools.
Real oil. It's
It's what?
oil. That's why it can be lubricated with water.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's impressive, green.
It's not the same thing as an iPay or ePay, ironwood.
No, that's really inexpensive, people use it for decking.
Yeah, that's what we
But
have.
similar similar
Okay.
properties, but certainly not, this is largely considered the hardest wood. There's some desert ironwoods that are actually a little bit harder, but we didn't want to work on because they're very basically stone,
Yeah.
so.
At the previous meeting, Rob, when we were talking about the horizontal and why it moved a second time, you had raised, it has to do with the electric field around it. So that for both the horizontal and the vertical, an electric firm's coming up to do those tests, I think this week.
For the reverse power relay.
For both of them, yeah. Now that the vertical's torn apart, the horizontal's still sitting there. So we're like, if you're bringing them up to do the vertical, do the horizontal while you're right here, let's double check and make sure that it's not that. So just so you know, we're actually getting that done.
Yeah, good.
So,
Just the Bugby Spring things, that just like forest management kind of.
Yeah, Mike, got back to us with a proposal, and, Scott, we found a few things in there we wanted to tighten them up, but, I think we'll have him go forward with that. And get that harvested, keep our water supply safe, and make a little money that we enough to pay the taxes.
the biggest thing I asked to be included is, because I know foresters don't do it on purpose, but, and we've got a forester in the room, but they get going Yahoo and taking trees down and, so I said to Kevin, it's gotta be right in the contract that Mike is gonna actually flag off in all the area that they cannot enter around where the actual water resources are, with some really big buffer. So that when they get horse and they see a beautiful tree that hasn't been cut for 200 years because it's right in the middle of it, that they don't go horsing in there and go pull it out. Or at least it's violates the contract if they go screwing
So
around.
how many people are hooked onto this thing, Buckley Springs?
We don't even know.
10
do we?
to 12 maybe.
And I play golf with a guy that lives up there.
Yeah.
Mike Audi,
Oh, yeah.
and he's not hooked on it, he has a well.
Yeah.
And he said that that snack bar had a well. And the campground had a well. So he wasn't sure who's hooked on it.
Yeah. It runs down to, almost to Garfield Road. I think Grimes is the last. They have an old barn, not the one by 15A, but just past Garfield Road. I think it's at least to there.
I think one
I
of
think that
the
goes on it, yeah.
Pectos are on.
What do we do with the wood? Do they sell that or?
We'll sell that and we'll get a percentage of the proceeds. So Mike Green will get his cut for doing all, for managing the whole thing, we don't pay him anything. He takes a slice of, you know, if it's firewood, he takes a slice of that, if it's cordwood, he takes a slice of that, if it's logs, he takes a slice and we get the rest, that's basically how that works.
I don't know if it's worth donating a portion of that, you know, because it's getting that time of year where you see all these, you know, little wild, the fireflies, whatever.
Yeah.
Just put it out there.
This is just the way the
Yeah.
foresters do this, so we could take a percentage of our proceeds if we wanted to help people get firewood, if you want to talk about that, it's just, this is the standard way these contracts go. That way, there's no risk on us, because we, whatever the take is at the log mill, and buying it, we get our percentage no matter how much gets there, there's no risk for us.
We did that at the golf course probably. Oh. 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And we got $25,000.
Yeah.
And you really couldn't notice where the trees were cut down, except on the access road to the right.
Yeah.
And, but it was a good chunk of change to help pay some bills.
Yeah, hopefully we can get a few years worth of taxes. That'd be
And I don't know if they ever got permission from you guys.
No idea, no idea, I wasn't here, so.
I wasn't here either, well, I was here.
What about for, David, Joe? got any-
Just a quick, on Bugby Springs, so it comes towards town, I guess, so there's piping. It's gonna get there and see it sometime, but it's coming right down Route 15 or what?
I couldn't tell you where it is, which side of the road it's on, but it used to make its way to, well one. Near Tenny Bridge, and then it would get,
Cause I've been down there and I've been to that part where the water just kind of shooting up.
up behind the snack bar.
Yeah.
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 I don't know.
No, I think Wayne Willie used to work here, didn't he? He's on the planning board now. He lives over at Jersey Heights. Anyways, I'm pretty sure he used to work here. And he told me that the original water line that came from Bugsby Springs was made out of cedar.
I heard that, yeah.
Probably, it's not unusual for that
Right,
area.
there's a spring just shooting water up there.
It's not a geyser, but
Yeah.
it's coming right out, yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
man-made or is it?
No, it's all filtered through the, Apple Cheek Farm area, all the way down through there.
Back in the day, cedar pipes were not that unusual. Anything for David from his list? Or anything you want to specifically bring up, David?
Oh, I don't know. I have a copy of someone's agenda. I don't have really apologize for.
It's on there, it's on the back, so back here somewhere. No more page, I think. Yep, and then, you think?
It's good for me. I'm quite pleased with the progress that our tree contracting service is making. I just paid a bill for them. It was an aggregate of 3 weeks and they are averaging about a mile a week. That is pretty impressive. So I'm hoping that they're gonna be done with Elmore area and we're gonna move them back into the Morristown area before they're done this year. Great. We've been,
What's the overall project look like? If you're saying it's a mile a week, how long does it do? We get through the whole thing, 3 years or something, or?
Oh, no, to do the whole system, we started the tree trimming back in 2013, you know, that we had a systematic approach to it, and we missed COVID, so we're looking at 9 years, and they're about ready to start the system over, so, you said 10 years, that was a good guess. We probably would have been done 8 if it wasn't for COVID.
And the projections are with everything growing quicker, that we'll probably have to get to 7 to stay ahead of it.
And the Public Service Board wants to know in our IRP what our projection is, what our system cycle will be.
Yeah.
And they are advocating for 7, and now out here, they're gonna go to 5.
Yeah, I think they probably will. We're gonna put 7 in. Because that's what we talked with Matt. We asked Matt, our electric engineer at Tunnels, what the current state of the art is for utilities thinking about this, and he said 7. So we're not gonna get on the bleeding edge in front of everybody. We'll let the GMPs of the world go first, and when they go to 5 and prove that it actually was necessary, then maybe we'll talk about that. So we're gonna try to, over a few years, ramp ourselves up to hit 7. And then we'll go from there. And it does, if you stay after it, you know, and David and I have talked about this, you're no longer cutting trees. You're going through with brush cutters, sometimes mechanized a lot of the time, where you're, like you see alongside the road. Now you're cutting 1, 2, 3 inches, and you're not going through with chainsaws cutting 14-inch trees down anymore, which we've been doing a lot of. You know, because we were far enough behind that we're literally cutting down forests now, and sometimes in some of the areas we're going through, so getting through it the first time is really helpful, because the next time through is a lot easier, right, if you just keep it up. That's the key. And in theory, our customers lose power less if we do this, right, that's the reason to do it, because there's less trees to hit the power limits. Anything else?
We jumped on the repairs down at, plant 2. We had some electrical infrastructure that was damaged as a result. We lost a critical tie line between substation number 5 and number 3, and that's been repaired. And then I guess they have already touched on the FEMA process for the dredging of the dam. That's kind of,
Didn't really hit that, but we're working on, you know, we do have all the permits to dredge out at Morrisville, because we currently can't see the top of the penstock, so we got a permit from A&R, we got a permit from the Army Corps. Now we gotta find a contractor. We had a contractor who bailed on us, so now we gotta go find another contractor to do it, so. Not for any nefarious reason, he just got too busy, he didn't have enough drivers anymore. But every contractor is crazy busy, you know, because of the flood, so. But we did get that set of permits at least, so we're ready to do it. We just gotta find a contractor, so we'll probably have to do a bid document on that.
Is the penstock inside the building there where the big grate or something?
Yes.
That's what the penstock is.
Right.
goes from the gatehouse to the power station.
Okay.
So on the upper side of the gatehouse in the water, you know, that's where the intake is, and all of that silt and gravel and everything, so much of that came down when there was 4 feet of water going over the top of the dam, which is what there was. That you can't find the top of it. When you look down, you can't find the top of the penstock. So that's why we're thinking it's like around 4,000 yards we have to excavate. We'll also have to do the same at the tail race for both Morrisville and Katie's Falls, we think, because they're both basically buried. The tail races are essentially buried.
Now, when they dredge it, so they're gonna be doing like a regular dredge, pumping it out? Or are they gonna be taking it out with buckets?
I think it was buckets with the plan.
They're gonna put some equipment in behind the dam,
Mhm.
build a dike, divert the water, put an excavator in there and perhaps some trucks, and then just dump it from one side of the wing wall behind the dam to the outside of the wing wall.
Mhm. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so it's the idea.
Is that in there where those divers were at that time you showed me from here?
Yeah,
Picture it.
yeah, and then we're gonna see what shape the racks are in. I think they're probably a mess. Well, you can see the top of them that they're all bummed out.
Yep.
And that inspection that was done, that we didn't know about to the dam,
Yep.
yeah, well, do we know what came of that?
They came back with two little tiny things, both of which. Kevin tells me have been like that for a long time. One is that where the grist mill burned down, they found a crack in the foundation. Which he says has been there for 20 years-ish. And then they said, and because it's open like that, you should put a fence up. Well, we probably should put a fence up when it burned down, but those are they somehow missed that 15,000 yards left the area. of Material, like, and that the gatehouse is destroyed and, you know, all the other stuff, like. Did you guys look at anything about the grist mill? Like.
A while ago, Penny told me that somebody had a contract to buy that, before it burned down.
Yeah, MSI has a right of first refusal on it, and, but our, you know, when I was talking to our attorney, you know, it's in the project limits of the hydro station. So Paul Nolan says, there's no way in hell FERC's gonna let us sell that. So one of the things Kevin and I are talking about is instead of trying to fix a crack that doesn't even have on a foundation that doesn't have a building on top of it, that is leaning anyway. Our solution might be to just push the foundation over and then we don't have to bother with the fence.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how you can get a right of first refusal on something.
I don't know how we gave that. It's long before my time. I think it was even before Penny's time. They've had it for a long time.
MSI hasn't been around.
I don't know how they got it.
Okay.
So, but we can try to dig into that, but they still would like it. They'd still like to buy it and build something on it. But Paul Nolan's like, there's no way you're ever getting that excluded from the project limits. FERC will say no. So he's like, they're wasting their time. So they could still buy the creamery because that's not in the project limits. So they actually have a right of first refusal
In the
on
next building over.
both of them. They could buy that because the creamery is not in the project limits, and I don't, yeah, they got a.
Do they have a right of first refusal on
They
that?
do, so I don't know how, but they do, so I'll have to research that for us. All right, let's see, if there's anything, we did pennies. Anyway, we talked about the Jersey Heights pump station contract, so that's all at the state now. So basically where that QBS system works, the qualifications based is Kevin and I ranked it. There was only one bidder that got rid of the minimum bar. So we sent that to the state. They then asked that bidder to send them all their pricing and everything, and they organize it all, and some people see it. So all that's happening, going through the process. You know, I told the other bidders that they weren't successful, so just working through the process. That's where that's at, just so you're aware. Next meeting, we'll have, in order to get paid for the engineering, we have to file a document as if we're gonna actually take a loan to do Jersey Heights with state, revolving loan fund money, which if they give us 0% money, we might even decide to do it and pay the debt service with the sewer allocation. We'll see what they offer us. I've made sure both with the state and our engineer that, because you'll all have to sign this document, and I will too, that the fact we're signing it really to get 50% of the engineering money right now doesn't obligate us to actually take a loan. So we get cash for the engineering, but we have an option to take a loan if the terms are right, basically. So you'll see that next meeting.
So are we in the process of raising the sewer hookup fees?
Yeah, we already had A&E under contract to do that because they've done this for like 10 other communities recently. So we gotta get, I'm sure Penny needs to get them some information, but we'd already talked to them about looking at that. Frankly, we told them to look at what the water hookup fees should be when we get the ordinance in place. So they're looking at all of that for us.
Okay,
So
good.
I'll bring that to you. Yeah, so that's underway. Nothing on Green River really, it's just going forward. I told you, we were just talking about that. You know, we are finding meeting with them next week. We're having our big meeting where they'll go and look at everything. And prioritization. So the only new thing since then, the integrated resource plan, really because PEPSA's staff have been so busy with everybody else's rate cases, it won't be filed this month like we originally thought. It'll be probably filed in October. They've asked for another extension. So just so you're aware of that. And then I did check, just because I know that you're always interested, Carl. VEPS has been moving slow on a lot of stuff because they're busy on a million fronts, and so, they tell me we're within 2 or 3 weeks of our vulnerability assessment. On that front, we do have a draft plan that the front office staff has seen for physical security too. And it's sitting out for them to mark up the plans and tell us if they love it or hate it, how we can improve physical security here. So that's also advanced. They seem to like generally what they were seeing, but basically put it on the map table and said, don't you have to write your name, just put hate this, love this, wish something was here, whatever you want to tell us. So
This is something you developed internally.
no, we hired an architect to take a look at, how would you, if you wanted to make sure everyone was better protected
Yeah.
and everybody had an escape route, what would you do as well?
Yeah.
And so that's what they brought to us. So that's advanced some too, just so you're aware. Any questions for us all?
Thank you for all your hard work. It's a lot going on for sure for you.
There is. And if you're up for it, love to have I think it'll be a very short, executive session for human sources, so it's 313A1B. Human resources, should be 5 minutes, these two, the mark, pay for it.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion been made. Go into executive session. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. At 6:26.
Perfect, let's do this. Hang on a second. There it is, how about I do this? I probably do. Make a motion again, Bob, please.
Motion to go out of executive session.
Second.
Motion been made, seconded. We're out of executive session. As of 6:33.
Oh, I skipped you past public comment, you should probably open and close public comment, sorry, I jumped right over
Okay.
it.
We have anybody yet?
No, we don't, I just, technically you should,
Anybody? Anybody?
sorry.
All right, well, we're done. Oh, we got adjourned. We should go adjourn. Motion made, seconded, all in favor? Aye. 6:34. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all for the gravel grinder this year.
Yeah.